Yes. Most groups will be starting their meetings this week. The next big Monday meeting will be on February the 23rd. There'll be a macabre for visitors on Friday the 6th of February, and that same evening there will be a meeting for all turners at 6:30 p.m. And we would like as many turners as possible to come to that meeting. That's Friday the 6th at 6:30. The next large meditation meeting is, as usual, the second Tuesday of the month. That's the 10th of February at 7:15. And finally, the annual general meeting of the Society will be held this year on Thursday the 25th of March. You remember that we have a short business meeting to begin with, followed by a general meeting, which everybody who comes to these meetings is welcome to attend, when there's usually a lecture on some subject of interest to us. The time will be announced later, but it's usually, the management committee I think are meeting tonight to fix it, it's usually 8:15. But it's really just to put the evening in your diary at the moment rather than more specifics.
Roy, he's not there. If people could, if somebody, white, Walter White, if you could shut people up near the front as they come into the door, there's plenty of room up near here. There was a reading one, given out to the group takers last week, which those who come to meetings will start reading this week. It's to say thank you for the large number of answers to that questionnaire. They've reached 190 now, because people wrote some awfully good things. They were very honest. They said what they wanted to say without fear or favour, and I've learned a tremendous lot from it. And I've put just a few, more or less at random, quotes anonymously there, because the whole essence of this was that this was, so to speak, a hot line which was which no personality entered, so that one wrote from the heart and one tries to answer from the heart, and those who have urgent pleas contained in their answers will be answered. But one thing I would like to say, that these quotes I've put in were merely ways people have of trying to keep the Paramatma in memory all the time, in their own way and in their own sort of life. It doesn't mean that it's the policy of the study society that you have to do it this way, according to these quotes. We hope from time to time to quote more, so that you will be answering your own questions. They're just samples, and don't waste time debating whether this is a good way to do it or not. Then the new group of Dr. Connell and Cardew and Mrs. Joffre were considering this reading one last week, and certain questions arose there It was a very good meeting, but rather few were able to begin. And although I don't want to read everything, some questions centered on the form of words contained in the questions that were sent around. Do I have to say I'm doing this for the Paramatma, etc.? And Mrs. Cardew remarked at the meeting
that it isn't necessary to have actual words in one's mind at all, is it?
Well, a lot of people feel like that. Some people do have the actual words. I do myself at times. But it's whatever you find works. I want you, during this year, to be going ahead exactly as you are, simply trying to follow up what works for you in your life, in connection with having the Paramatman in memory all the time. Are there any main questions about this? The difficulty is only one of communication. Everybody really knows until they try and convey their experiences to somebody else. And that's what happened with Miss Cullinan's question. It wasn't really related to her real question. It just came up to us on the platform in that form, see. About, let's just go on with any more questions there were at that group, yes. There was Mr. Cook, who, it was his first meeting, weekly meeting, apart from his having come to 2 meditation meetings, and he said,
on that particular topic, with a book where I find the idea stimulating, my approach is to close the book after about 5 minutes.
That's very good, I think.
It's rather a strange reaction, but I do find it such a stimulating experience that I have the feeling that I don't want to push it too far too soon.
I think we've all had that feeling that many books contain a real good idea, and some contain several. And if one can recognize this good idea and close the book and have it in mind, it often use what Margarita Lasky calls it, often triggers of an experience.
And then Dr. Connell, in answer, mentioned discrimination.
Yes.
And Mr. Jacobs said, I'm interested in the idea of discrimination because I'm often confronted with a choice of reading between 2 books. For instance, an easy-to-read novel, and the tendency is to go for that, or on the other kind, maybe the Masnavi or something like that.
But what you feel, Bobby, one can't be at the highest literature all the time. There is such a thing, as Shankaracharya points out, as spiritual indigestion. You would be forgiven if you read the late Agatha Christie, for instance, at times. Nevertheless, if you're going to meditate shortly afterwards, it is a good plan to read something worthwhile. So it's up to you to choose, but don't let's be too rigorous with ourselves about what we read.
And I haven't found
No.
this one.
Another very good remark by Mrs. Cardew. The main thing I found myself, this is discussing what happened during the holidays since their last meeting. Mr. Scardew said the main thing I found myself was the enormous difference there is between speed and rushing. I've spent a lot of my life rushing, and every now and again this has changed, and the speed continued, but the rushing dropped out. And this, for me, is the very best help I've received. And that was taken up, that you can often go quicker without rushing. Rushing means just identification, all this. Yes,
Jacobs.
Yes, Mr. P. Jacobs. There are three Mr. Jacobs. This is Mr. P. Jacobs. Philip.
I sometimes find that when repeating the question, who am I, before going to sleep, I sometimes wake up with it. And this is the first thing that comes to mind. It's a nice, refreshing thing to wake up to.
Well, no, it certainly is, of course, and to show you that this question is inherent in the human race, and it's a question which is trying to feel whether there is a God, an accessible God or not. And you all remember asking this in childhood, I'm sure. And a headmaster of our local church school, Twickenham, gave me an essay by a little girl, Elizabeth Herbert, aged 8. George, what were they told to do? To write an essay on anything?
On anything, Dr. Rose, yes. We do try to feed them with simple word ideas from time to time. For example, in the simplest possible terms, we talk about the existence of order in the universe, that disorder and chaos, in fact, are man-made.
These children are between what ages?
6 and 11.
6 and 11. Mm-hmm.
We also talk about the fact that one person consists of many different people, sometimes angry, sometimes happy, sometimes miserable, and so on.
And do they respond to, you go very tentatively, I know, they respond. But on this occasion, the children were asked to write on anything. So Elizabeth, aged 8, heads it, My Thoughts. I sometimes feel, who am I? Who is that person outside my body? I do not know what I really look like. I look in the mirror sometimes, but that is only my reflection. I do not understand myself. Who am I? Is God true? Is he magic? No, but God once came down to make peace, joy, love, kindness. We never succeed in it. I do believe in God in one way, and I don't in another way. It seems very hard to me that I do not understand life. Sometimes the person inside me says, go on, be unkind, go on, make trouble. So I do, but then I only just get it back. So the person inside me says, go on, shout at your mum. It just goes up to my mind, and I shout at my mum, and there I've started a fight. I've always wondered, what did God create the whole universe for, or did he just create the earth? Well then, like us, her high spot gradually faded a little bit, and the rest is funny but not so serious. Many countries had their own gods, and long ago they had pharaohs in Egypt, F-E-R-O-E-S. and important people were not buried. They were wrapped up in bandages and put in wooden cases. They were called mummies. You can see one in Hazelmere Museum. It's not in the wooden case there. Our class went and saw its toes were peeping out, but they were all rotting. That is the end of my story. So it's really just like us. We start high, but our thoughts gradually end up with everything rotting, and it's the end of the story. But you see, there are these fundamental questions asked at all times by all human beings at some time or another. Who am I, and is there a God, or something like this? And I'd like to compare that formulation with one of the answers to the questionnaire. I can find it. On a sheet of paper, typewritten sheet.
No, I haven't got
It's not in this.
No, I don't think I've got it.
Well, we'll have to give that a miss then. But what I would like to say is that just that there have been these fundamental questions asked at all times, so many ways have been discovered by humanity at different times, by which they can come to the realization that there is a supernatural power within everybody, and that there are ways of reaching this. In his fifth psychological lecture, Mr. Ouspensky, back in the 1930s, pointed out that all our troubles come from not remembering ourselves, whereas at the same time, self-remembering is part of the human endowment and is our right. And if we would only learn how to do it, all our troubles would disappear. And briefly, he said that we have to do it by learning to control those parts of the human endowment which can be controlled by what will we have. And he mentions that schools in the East often began with control of the movements, but that this required very arduous training over a long time. As you know, some people here begin by learning the turning, which is very arduous. Some people begin by learning the movements to music. Less arduous, needs to be done for a long time to get the full flavor. But I dare say most of you have found that one of the difficulties about coming at self-realization through control of movement by ceremonial or arduous exercises which have to be done together in certain surroundings is that they produce the self-realization during a macabre or during a movement class, but they gradually fade afterwards because we revert to our ordinary way of moving. As our main trouble in self-realization, main obstacle is the machine, the moving apparatus. Has anybody anything to say on this? Do they find that those of you who do turn or do the movements, that you seem to need something as well to carry over till the next macabre or the next class? For the Medley, of course, they had their religion, they had many things going on as part of the Medley order. Anything anybody want to say about this, or doesn't it interest?
I would like to say one thing. I found the people who do the turning, who do not actually come here to listen to our system of knowledge, seem to want some knowledge sooner or later. If they start asking.
Mr. Coram says that his experience is that people who do turn but do not come here for knowledge of our system, sooner or later do want knowledge.
Sooner or later, yes, probably. I don't mean that it's absolutely essential or anything like that there's any kind of inevitable ruling on this matter, but your experience is that an additional something is usually looked for. And it was Mr. Trensky's experience too. Come up near the front, if you want. And he goes on in this same lecture to say that in modern life in the West, it's usually more simple and direct to choose that other department which we can get under our control, namely the intellectual apparatus. And in connection with that, there is a special way. We know that we have no direct control over consciousness. Our consciousness fluctuates all the time. We have to wait, like picking up money in the street, for happy experiences associated with a new state of consciousness. But though we have no control over consciousness itself, if we arrange our mind in the way it would act, or in the direction in which it would point, at moments or episodes of consciousness, we can in that way bring consciousness. And this is what he calls self-remembering. Arranging the mind as in the direction it would have from what we have ourselves experienced in moments of consciousness. Is that clear? Is there any? Now, we really have not followed that up until recently. He did himself, and in private conversations with him, he had much to say, and particularly to show, to demonstrate. But there was no common language, no way of expressing it, teaching it large and in groups. On the other hand, since 1972 at any rate, the Shankaracharya has been showing us exactly and telling us exactly how the mind does work in moments of consciousness, and giving us kind of point-to-point schedule for proceeding. For instance, in moments of consciousness, it's always in the present moment. The Paramatman exists out of time and can be contacted always in the moment. So the first thing to do is to relieve the mind of the burden it carries of past and future, and try to have attention on exactly what lies at your feet. And if we, as many people have discovered, shown in this questionnaire, if we persistently try that much, we get more moments of consciousness. A lot of your answers bear testimony to this. Anything you want to say?
How do you relate this to the meditation from Mr. Lucas?
My own experience is that without meditation, I never could start at all. And certainly in a half hour, the whole essence of a half hour is to drop any thought processes whatsoever, isn't it? And to pay no attention to any physical stimuli that occur. To pay attention to one thing only, namely the rhythm of the mantra, and it greatly helps if in one's heart one has the same feeling that one has in moments, in peak moments of enlightenment. But in the meditation you drop all that and more. And unless one does 2 half hours a day, it's very hard to acquire the practice of doing it. Do you find that?
Mr. Lucas says that he was really referring more to the daytime, but it seems to him that by doing the meditation during the day, what you've just been talking about comes naturally rather than by deliberate effort.
I very much agree that this is its intention. But one wonders in how many people it comes naturally during the rest of the day without some orientation of the mind or some control of the attention. But hands up those who have experienced that if they do 2 half hours a day, it comes natural the rest of the day to drop thoughts of the past and the future. Then, would you say? Would you put your hands up?
Various people saying not all the time.
No, but how many, put your hands up, how many, in how many does it become natural at some time in the day, as long as they're doing their 2 half hours? Well, that's quite impressive. Now put your hands up if you're content with that. No.
Doesn't it work the other way around as well? That if one has had attention during the day, then the meditation goes that much more smoothly.
Mr. Weigall, doesn't it also work the other way around?
Yes, but we weren't talking about that. let's stick to what we were talking about.
What he was saying was that if you have attention during the day, does it not mean that your meditation is better later?
All right, granted. What they're talking about is this desire that is universal in the human race to know who one is and whether one has a divine spark in oneself and how to reach that divine spark. And one way was this rather more arduous control of movements, attention on movements, and another way is getting the habit of putting the mind in the same state that it's in moments or episodes of consciousness. And the meditation, of course, enables us to get off the ground and begin it, because until the meditation came, I personally hadn't begun it at all. Another way is the macabre, another way is movements to music. And it will vary greatly for every individual. What they find is the best combination in their present mode of living. Anything else people want to say about this?
Mr. Hodge says that during the holidays he was trying to put things into practice, but he found that there were many inner conversations going on, and that seemed to take his attention away, and if he could give less attention to the inner conversations, then he was able to attempt real meditation.
And often, I think, one is made to do it for oneself when there's not a lot going on, when other people aren't making you do it. So during the holidays was a very good opportunity, which a number of people have used, for dodging these inner conversations, which certainly are hostile to higher states of consciousness, aren't they? Don't stop now, Hodge, now that the term's begun. In that original fifth lecture, Mr. Rutensky went on to say that you notice that directly you started to try to remember yourself, something in you started imagination, which for him meant uncontrolled mental activity. And for the Shankaracharya, is represented by dispersion of the mind, which has to be overcome on the fifth step of yoga, but which, starting with the meditation, we begin to overcome right from the beginning. Dispersion of the mind, uncontrolled mental activity, inner conversations, and many other things. But these are obstacles to consciousness. Do you find that hard? Anybody else agree with him? That there are inner conversations.
Mrs. Brunson, this is. She says one of the main troubles seems to be that when things are going well, one can go on. But when things aren't going
Go
so
on
well...
what? Having inner conversations?
Yeah, when things are going well, one can go on with the techniques and continue. But she says when things aren't going well, and one's desire, as it were, gets lost, one doesn't work, doesn't make the effort. And so her question is, how does one keep the desire going, even when one's meditation is not going well?
Well, you notice how this little Elizabeth who wrote this, she values these experiences, wrote that essay, but you notice how her thought processes put an end to them. And I don't know if she's finding that still, George, is she? But she is one of the brighter ones, isn't she? And she keeps coming back to this. So the desire fades, as many people's questionnaire answers said, because precisely they are allowing these thought processes, this mental activity, this imagination to go on unchecked, often without knowing it. To get back the desire, one suddenly remembers oneself, one remembers that this has been going on, and one does something to get back one's attention. It's loss of attention. And then the desire, as much you do that, so much the desire comes back. And Lucas, don't you think that, again, it's a kind of mutual operation, that if you affirm with yourself during a half hour, to the extent merely of withdrawing from this mental activity to the mantra, then it's much easier during the day to withdraw from all these conversations and the burden of past and future, and vice versa.
Mr. Lucas does agree, yes.
Well, Mrs. Benson, when I find I have a series of bad days, things not going so well, my first thing is to look at my meditation. Because nearly always the origin of this comes from much too casual meditation, too acquiescent. Come and meditate with me one day, and you'll make me a bit better. Now, really what I'm trying to find out is what people now, in 1976, want from a society like ours. Do they want to come to meetings? In which case, what do they want to hear about? Do they want to come and be given the meditation? In which case, how are we going to keep them going long enough for all the good effects, or many of the good effects, to be available to them? No good coming and trying and fading out. You only spoil it for the future. Do they want to come and learn the turning and do something physical? These questions we must continually put to ourselves, because the society is now getting very big. And we're being asked all over the world. We send material all around to different countries. Obviously, our time and energy must be spent on not acquiring lots and lots of new people, as Madame Ouspensky used to say, more people, more chaos, more chaos. But putting through for everybody for whom we've undertaken any responsibility the completion of what we started with them. And that has helped very much by admitting a certain number of new people and taking a hand at explaining to them the results of their own experience systematically. So we had to have, say, 2 or 3 new groups to keep us in trim ourselves. What are the requirements of 1976?
One man,
Dr. David Connell, said one man of the group to which he has been going asked if it was true that the Shankaracharya had said that it takes 3 years to build up an organization to achieve anything, or achieve something. And Dr. Connell says that he would like to spend a term with that group deliberating how those 3 years should be spent. And he wants to add one thing. Oh, I see. I see. Sorry, Dr. Connell was relaying what had been said to him by somebody else, but he thought it was interesting as a program as to what we might do.
Well, I can't possibly see how it has any relevance, Dr. David, because this was said by the Shankaracharya to me about people who'd never had any teaching or preparation at all, that it would take them 3 years before they could constitute a school. Here at Colet, we've had an organization which has been going 40 years. We're sitting very pretty with the method, with the teaching, with more than one method, 3 or 4 really effective methods. And to go back 40, 50 years and debate what it would be like to start from scratch is not what I'm interested in. So tell him that when you see him. And if he doesn't feel that there is something for him emanating through that group that you attend, then I think he must go and try and start something that will take 3 years to do. Anyway, here we are, with all our past available, with all the luck we've had and all the privileges in 1976. And what I mean is, what do we here feel is the task that lies before us now, additional task. It's different from when we first went to those psychological lectures in Mr. Rupinsky. Everything has changed. Everything is absolutely different. And yet, some of the things he said remain true and have always been true. Now, I would like to just read a paragraph, really, at one of our audiences, when we were out with the Shankaracharya, I asked him a question relating to different methods available for self-realization available in the world. I quoted from a meeting that he gave to the general public, a discourse to the general public, and he points out that when you're speaking to the general public or to new people, you speak in a certain way. But when you're speaking to individuals of experience with whom you've spoken often before, you speak quite differently. This is how he puts it.
Usually there are two ways discourses take place. One is general, and the other is personal. There are occasions when one speaks to the common man, to anyone, and there are occasions when one speaks to individuals. When one speaks generally to anyone, then the knowledge aspect has to be very simple. Simple in the sense that the ordinary man does not have much basis from which to respond. So he is given very simple incentives. And through these simple incentives, it is expected that he will get something and begin moving. The nature of this incentive is that God is certainly available to everyone, everywhere, and in the most simple way. But the simplicity has been lost. So people are separated
From God.
from God. Not that they are in reality separated, but they feel separated because they have forgotten the union. It is forgetfulness which comes between the absolute and the individual. Otherwise, the absolute is simply available to everyone who desires him.
So, again we come back to doing away with forgetfulness and waking up the memory that the higher consciousness, God, the divine spirit is available to every individual. And they only feel separated because they have forgotten. So I do feel that even though it's 1976, we still have, this is our prime duty, to remind people of what they've forgotten and show them how to keep this memory constant. What do you feel about that?
Yes, I feel in the last year there's been a growing sense of closeness to something much bigger than oneself, yet within, and also during the day a feeling of getting through to the same thing which is all around. And an understanding of people around and their problems and how they are seeing the world.
One moment, have you got that?
Yes.
And I feel that there's just a little trick missing, which we can connect within ourselves, and at the same time it would be outside, it would be everything, which would bring a light into the whole world without even saying anything to anybody, but just by being oneself.
Could you tell us your name? We want to repeat what you said, you see.
Very interesting.
Just that I think it would be very useful if I at least, and others also, could discover or work on this little trick of connection, because I feel we are almost there.
Well, during this last year, I felt a growing sense of closeness to something very big, but it is also, as it were, within me. And during the day, I seem to be getting through to those all around me. And this gives me a much greater understanding of the world and people and their problems.
Very good. I mean, this is what we all want to be able to do, see?
But he goes on a long way. But it all, I mean, equally interesting. He says that this is fine, but there seems to be one trick still missing. That somehow or other, if we could get this trick or connection, we would connect ourselves to the outside world. And by doing that, we would bring a light into the world which would change everything without us saying anything, but just by being. And he thinks that this, we were asking about a program, he thinks it would be useful if we could work and try and discover what this trick or connection is, because in his view we're almost there, but not quite.
Well, I couldn't agree more. Really, I couldn't. I would only say that there's more than one trick. But supposing there were half a dozen, 1, 2, 3, 4, we had to acquire this, and there isn't much time to spare. It's not very much, as you say, we're almost there. But one of the ways we've been taught, in connection with this idea of arranging your mind as it would be in a state of consciousness when people would see that you are radiating consciousness, see? Example, is to eliminate all thoughts of I and mine. And Shankaracharya has said more than once that if we succeeded in doing that, everybody with whom he came in contact would know it. That's really the one trick, but it contains a number. Professor Dewey, we are invited to New York in May, and all this question is very apposite because Mr. Ravenek wants us to collect God knows how many new people and have public lectures and things like we did before. But I feel that I want to talk to the group and try and find this one trick which will enable them to go on alone when Mr. Ravenek and I are no more, and the other senior people. So it's got a dual purpose, this visit to New York. So be thinking about that. It's not till May, luckily. Now, we've got another few minutes. Supposing we play the next trick, which is at our feet, and drop all thoughts of I and mine. What you think?
Yes.
Just as a little uplift to take away with us, in connection with the fact that at all times and in all places there has been this desire. About 500 BC, modern scholarships placed this passage, said, much further west, but at the same time as the original Sri Shankara. It'll be familiar to you, but it does say the same thing.
Ho, everyone that thirsteth, come ye to the waters, and he that hath no money, come ye, buy and eat. Yea, come, buy wine and milk without money, and without price. Wherefore do you spend money for that which is not bread, and your labour for that which satisfieth not? Incline your ear, and come unto me. Hear, and your soul shall live. Return unto the Lord, and he will have mercy upon you, and to our God, for he will pardon you abundantly. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, saith the Lord.
The whole difficulty is to understand that the one whom we seek, his thoughts are not our thoughts, and his ways are not our ways.
For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. For ye shall go out with joy, and be led forth with peace. The mountains and the hills shall break forth into singing before you, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. Instead of the thorn shall come up the fir tree, and instead of the briar shall come up the myrtle tree. And it shall be to the Lord for a name, for an everlasting sign that shall not be cut off.
That was said to the Israelites after all their suffering and captivity in Babylon, when they came home with a new world at their feet. So all our suffering is probably also for some purpose in this country today. Give my love to Elizabeth, George.